think I'm not doing very good this year. I can openly say that. I don't think there's.
You're behind me in Dakota Speedway, and you're getting attendance points every week there.
Okay.
You're not even in the top 5.
You know what, Mason? You're hurting my feelings.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 19 of season 2. We hope you all enjoyed a long holiday weekend, whether you're celebrating Canada Day or the 4th of July. And oddly cool weather this past weekend with a lot of racing. We're here to break everything down, plus what's upcoming next. Myself, Mason, along with Becca, John, and Mr. JCP, Jessup Collinsworth Pelkey. And as always, in 2023, we want to thank our presenting sponsor, Hitch Harness, and headlined by Tyler Hall out of Fertile, Minnesota. If you haven't heard of Hitch Harness, it's a very innovative product focusing on 2 main aspects for truck owners specifically. Safety, number 1, provides safe receiver hitch storage in the back of the truck, and also efficiency, so you have quick and easy access. You can maximize your time moving from one project to the next. And so head over to hitchharness.com, check out all the inventory they have. They have all sorts of products, multiple colors and styles to choose from, apparel, even chassis dollies for the racers. And also give the Facebook page a like so you can catch a promotion sometime throughout the summer or throughout the year. A lot of great stuff. So check everything out. Thank you so much, Tyler Hall, for the support of the podcast in 2023. So the lineup this week is shuffled because Mr. John Breckel had a bit of a accident early on in the podcast and left some oil on the track that Becca and Jessup Source ran throughout the podcast. So the lineup is looking like this: myself, Mason on the pole, followed by Jessup, then Becca and John at the rear of the field. And so, Mr. Jessup Pelkey, how are you doing?
It's good to be back in the front row, and you know, you guys, the king will be back on top again soon.
It's actually
We shall
an
see.
inverted lineup for points this week, Jessup. So
Yeah,
your point
inverted.
average is pretty low. Yeah, your point average is pretty low.
I thought we went through
It's not
passing points
surprising.
this week.
Oh no. Becca and I are definitely by far still way above you guys when it comes to the point totals, as we've seen as part of our My Race Pass fantasy.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. John's kind of kicking butt in that area. Miss Becca, how are you doing?
Let's not talk about fantasy racing. I'm good.
Yeah, Becca, what happened to you on Saturday on Tuesday in fantasy racing? Yeah, I saw it as well.
I was kind of wondering about that too, because I was looking afterwards like, where's Becca?
I'm like, where is she? I'm like, keep scrolling.
I
Maybe she
kind of
didn't pick.
forgot
Oh, she's 63rd.
picks because I was spending too much time in the sun, and I may have had a few too many refreshments and lost track of time. Even though Jessup said like, "Hey, Jamestown's open," I would had a squirrel moment, and 5 seconds later I forgot. And yeah, forgot to make picks. I did make picks for streets and mods. I didn't go back and look and see how I did because I just didn't want to see how bad I did overall. But I can't believe it's already the 4th of July has already come and gone, and the mod tour starts in just a few days, and I still need to pack and prepare and get a couple of things ready, and I am running out of days and hours, and the mod tour will be here this weekend, and I'm super excited. So definitely ready for a long, fun 6 days of great hard racing. So super pumped.
Yeah, this is your reminder. If you haven't been reminded already, today is Wednesday when we're recording this. I keep thinking it's a Monday. It's so weird that the 4th fell on a Tuesday, so it's like got me all confused. And so, yeah, racing weekend for me might start tomorrow. We'll see. Mr. John Breckel, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm just like Becca. Yesterday was a busy day. Overall, we started with the parade. We went through and had racing to end the evening, had fireworks as well throughout the night. And then if we even go back to the weekend, which actually feels like we just had a weekend because it was on a Tuesday, but if we actually go back to the weekend, I kind of felt like Mason a little bit. I was traveling around to different tracks, multiple hours within a car to get to different places, and just had a lot of fun overall.
Yeah, it was a weird weekend. I had a couple of days of rest, not being at a racetrack. We'll call that rest per
That's
se,
rest.
but did definitely put on the miles this weekend for various other things. I had to go to a wedding in Rochester, Minnesota, so that was quite a bit of a trek, especially traveling in around the cities around the 4th of July holiday, which I do not recommend. Do not travel around the Twin Cities on a major holiday for those wondering out there. So, but other than that, I'm good, ready to start episode 19 and get right into who and what we are repping. We will go with Jessup first this week. Who or what are you repping?
Well, Mason, I'm going to continue my line of irrelevance as I am wearing a 2013 Arlington Speedway. Is it Speedway? Raceway. Raceway?
I think it's Raceway.
Speedway. Raceway. Let's go with Raceway. It's kind of a cool looking shirt here.
Caution on Jessup.
No, I caught
You
myself.
said the wrong thing. Raceway and Speedway are very different.
Hey, when I caught myself about Jeff Turnbull, you gave me a caution flag, so I think
That
this
was
is
an
quite warranted.
egregious mistake on your part, Becca. I will let
I
Jessup
co-
slide.
Yeah, so haha, you guys. That's like spinning
It's
the
fine.
wheels
He'll
but
mess
not
up
losing
again.
a spot.
It's just-
Anyways,
it's
it's a
just
cool looking shirt
inevitable.
here.
We can't see the back.
I don't.
Turn around.
Oh my gosh, I can't turn. I'm old.
He is old. I mean, it's
I
very
know
hard for
the
him to move his
t-shirt
ass.
designer who made this shirt, and it screams just their work.
It really does, Becca.
What is it?
I was saying I know the t-shirt designer who designed this shirt, and it just screams. That is straight up their style. I'm just like,
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Have you ever been to Arlington Raceway, Jessup?
No, but I've watched it a few times on broadcasts and so. So it's a big track, kind of fun.
It is. It is. It's a half mile. It's
Mhm.
classified as a half mile.
Yeah,
Mason
I haven't
would
been
enjoy
there
that.
either. Yeah. So a little bit far down in southern Minnesota for my travels, I guess. There's so many tracks that race on a Saturday because they typically race on a Saturday, and there's a lot of Saturday tracks closer that doesn't allow me to get down there, but
Yep.
maybe one day.
Yeah, Arlington, Texas is pretty far. But when you're down there, you can see good old Hank Hill.
If you want a real cool treat, I guess you can go, if you're going to Arlington, Texas, you can go visit the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Woo.
Let's go a step further on this. If you're going to Arlington, you can also go visit the National Bowling Museum because that's also headquartered in Arlington, Texas,
Oh, but there you go.
with USBC.
Now that's
So-
an attraction right there, ladies and gentlemen.
I
John,
agree.
have you
That
been
is
there, John?
way more than, Jessup's little attraction over there.
John, have you been there? So, out of little fun, one of these things are not like the other. Out of the four of us, there is currently one person here who has been to Arlington.
Well, back up. I've been through the city. I've never visited the National Bowling
Oh,
Museum.
well, then I stand corrected. There's two individuals, but there's only been one person to make it to the Dallas football stadium.
"Hi."
That is I.
Hi.
I've been there. I don't quite remember all of my experience there, but it's really nice.
Yeah.
The
It's a
parts I do
bougie
remember.
stadium, it looks like.
It is.
I do
it
have to
is.
laugh, Becca. You kind of sounded like you were at a board meeting when everybody, if you're all in favor, you say aye. That was very much just like you.
I honestly thought Jessup was talking about himself, and I was like, "Wait, I've been there. I've been there." Then
I'm
we're
glad
just-
the memory clicked.
Yes.
I don't think I have. I've been in Dallas, but I don't.
Yeah,
think
I've been in
the-
the Dallas Metro. I've never been in Arlington though.
I've been in
Yes.
Dallas Metro quite a bit. We've got companies down there for work, so I've been there quite a bit.
That was the year that me and my buddy Shay got VIP tickets to the Texas Motor Speedway,
Oh,
2015.
Yes.
And they
Met Jeff-
prematurely left.
We prematurely left because we found out the Dallas Cowboys were playing Sunday Night Football across town, and it looked like Brad Keselowski was gonna run away with the race, but so we left with like maybe 10 laps to go.
And with
And
that, there's your
And-
caution, Mason. Becca left a race to go
is not
see
an
the
official
Dallas Texans.
caution for the TPP, but this is a caution for back
Life
when you
caution.
left the race early in Texas.
I would
Oh,
agree. Why
okay.
are you leaving races early? That's just uncalled for.
Because we left the race early because it looked like Brad Keselowski was going to run away with it, and Shea was a huge Jimmy Johnson fan, and Jimmy was going to finish second. And we ran out of the racetrack so quickly. We got to the rental car, and turned on the radio because they had a free XM radio, had it on the NASCAR channel, and as we got in the car and turned it on, that's when they're like, Jimmy Johnson wins whatever race it was down in Texas. And Shay's like, no way, no, because Jimmy Johnson is Shay's favorite driver. So we hop in the car.
So-
It took about an hour to drive across town to go to Sunday Night Football and find a place to park. And then we ran into this like bachelor party, and we crashed this person's bachelor party. They gave us free beer, so that's a win, I guess. As if we needed to drink anything more that day, because we probably shouldn't have been driving across town after the NASCAR race in the first place. But we got to the stadium safely. Nothing bad happened. Continued to drink some more, and I think we stood outside for maybe an hour before the game and went inside, and then it was standing room only, because that's the only tickets that they had left for the game that night. So it was against the Eagles, which is a huge rival for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think they lost. I think the Cowboys lost that game. I hate the Cowboys so much.
What a shame.
So
I
let's
know.
actually go through Mason, and we're not going to give a caution on Becca, but I truly think this caution should be on Shea. I mean, he deserves a caution in this situation for leaving the NASCAR race early in pity that Jimmy Johnson wasn't going to win, and then Jimmy does win. I mean, this is on you, Shea.
Here, I kind of thought you were going to give him the caution play because we may have consumed some adult beverages and then got in the car and drove across town.
Well, that's also a caution worthy. There's so many cautions and like red flags.
Jessup's giving him a caution for that.
Okay. So, anyways, great time. It was a great time.
See, the times I've gone down to the Dallas area, went to watch a real football team play. That would be NDSU. Just saying.
Frisco.
Are they really a real team?
Frisco, Texas.
I mean, they
I was
could
gonna
move
say-
up and actually play real teams and
They
be in
could
a real
actually play real
conference.
teams and get destroyed. Probably that would be fun to watch.
I'm just kidding. Oh, go Bison, horns up. Ah.
Nice.
Oh, awesome shirt, Jessup.
I was gonna say, how did we get
went
your
down the
rails?
rabbit hole, didn't we, Mason?
Yeah,
We went
did.
down a rabbit hole into Arlington, Texas. So Mason, this is for you. This is the red flag, so you can get this train back on its tracks.
Well, I mean, I might keep this all. This is good material.
I know. I agree.
Alrighty.
Remember,
well,
folks,
speaking of
this
speaking of
shirt
red
is sponsored
flags or
by
red
Hank
stuff,
Hill and-
Becca, who or what are you repping?
So, you guys might not know this, but this weekend is the 34th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour, and I am repping. It's an older shirt from many years ago, but I am repping the Keep Calm and
Wait a second,
Tour
Becca.
On T-shirt.
But wait, it's not the 34th annual Stock Car Stampede.
No, John. No. It's the 34th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour. Starts this weekend. This is the Keep Calm Tour On shirt from many years ago. This is like back when like the chive was like all the thing. Like everyone was like keep calm, chive on. Basically, that's where this shirt comes from. And I am just here to remind you, if you have yet to sign up for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour, there is still time to sign up and pre-register before this weekend's races kick off over at the Jamestown Speedway. And we'd love to see many of our local guys come race, as well as, hey, there's still quite a few big names from around the Midwest who could easily make the pull up to North Dakota and have 6 fun days of racing right here in our backyard. So again, if you're an IMC modified driver or an IMC stock car driver, I want to see you on tour this weekend.
Awesome. Sure. I never knew that they made those shirts.
They
Did.
never made they only lasted 1 year, but I got one, and
I remember those.
I have one as well.
Yes, I remember those when they first came out that year.
Dang.
so yeah.
Those are some pretty nifty shirts there. Awesome. I'll go next because I'm sure we got another history lesson coming up. So I have decided to rep a driver who is supposed to make an appearance on the tour once again this year, and she's been up here for a few tours already. the number 44K, a Kelsey Foley. Nice colors on the back of this shirt.
Very nice shirt.
Yeah, this is a
Always
shirt
has
that-
nice shirts.
I think this is a
Yes.
2022 shirt that I got, and it's got. I didn't really notice this right away, but it's got like a little camo type pattern on it. So really
It
nice
does.
shirt.
You can see it actually in the camera. The camera kind of
Mhm.
shows actually the camo maybe a little bit better.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
It
so
allows Mason to blend in.
It does.
Right.
He doesn't stand out
Stick
too
out.
much with this one.
yeah, so Kelsey, I believe she's originally from Tucson, Arizona. So she usually makes the trek up here the last few years, and one of the fan favorites, obviously. And she enjoys coming up here and meeting all the fans, and excited to see how she does this year on the tour. She's always she's been a really good top competitor, and I think she's been doing some at the beginning of the year. I think she was doing some USMTS racing a little bit, and so
Her and Tanner both.
and
Tanner's
her
been
and
doing
Tanner
quite a bit.
Black both, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I think there'll be some really tough competitors this week on the tour. So that leads us to John. What are you
And you
repping?
are correct, Mason. We are definitely doing the history lesson once again because, like Becca said, it's Mod Tour week. So we're starting with the 34th annual. Yes, Becca, 34th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour is starting on Saturday in Jamestown, July 8th, and it goes for 6 nights, and it ends on July 13th at the Dakota Speedway in Mandan. That's going to be on a Thursday. But I am repping the 29th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour shirt. So this one is one of the very, very nice shirts that were out there as part of one of the years that we highlight several champions. So, Becca, we're going to leave you out of this because I know right away you have some of the champions, and no, it was not Jeff Kernbull on this shirt that ended up winning. So I'll give you
Clearly
that hint.
not.
Yep.
Was it
But,
Jed? Jed?
But it might have
Turnbull?
been, or it might have even been Ed Taylor. He might have been on there as well. But in other words, who do you guys think were the champions?
Elijah Siebenbergen.
Jessup is right for the stock cars
Yeah, that's kind of an easier
because
guess.
Elijah obviously was in his prime right around that time frame when it came into the tour scene. Because if you guys think about it from a timing perspective of when these shirts were made and when it happened. So again, 34th annual is this year, right?
Yep.
Yes, John.
So-
Oh, Hunter Marriott.
29th annual is what, 5 years ago, right?
It'd be
Yep.
Hunter
So that would have
Marriott.
been. And Jessup, I believe you are correct.
He is
That-
correct.
Hunter
That was gonna be my
Marriott
guess
was
too. Yeah.
the winner. Now, question for you guys: who was second in the mods that year?
Was it Big Show?
He ran the
No.
tour for 1 year.
Jake O'Neill.
Oof.
Oh, Stormy Scott.
No, but you're close.
Johnny Scott?
Yes.
Wow.
And this is a very interesting story because Johnny ran the tour that year.
He sold his
He
car.
ended up in Williston with his car, and I believe, Becca, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I might be wrong on it. It was either that he hurt something in the car or he sold the car.
He
Sold.
sold the car.
Okay, I heard both stories. That's why I wanted to make sure. So he sold the car that night and then hopped into Stormy's car for the last 2 nights of the tour, which was with him as part of his backup. So that's ended up what happened with him that year. And this is also the year. Was this also the year that they had what was the TV crew that was following them around?
The Dirt
Dirt
Nights.
Nights.
And
Yes.
if you can watch some of the episodes on YouTube, and if you can actually see the one where they roll into Dickinson, and they talk to Johnny, and he's like, "Yep, I sold my car last night. I'm gonna drive my brother's car," and he talks all about it in the Dirt Nights. If you can check out those episodes, some of the episodes, not all of the episodes, are on YouTube, and you can check them out. But he does talk about it in the show and explains "Yep, I sold my car." And
Who are the Bash Bros again?
The Bowmans?
Bowmans.
Yes.
Because they still
Yep.
use the one piece of footage that I got
Yes.
in Williston where the
Pete
the
Bradley
driver-
went through the fence.
yep.
It was Yep. Bradley went right through the fence over there during the heat race. So
It's
into the parking lot.
It's like the girl texts on her phone like, "Hey, you want to come over?" And he goes, "No, I'm racing in North Dakota." And she goes, "My parents aren't home." And then you see the footage of Pete Bradley drive through the fence in Williston and be like, "Be right over."
Yep.
It
So
was
this
actually
year-
a viral clip. It's pretty funny.
So the year that this ended up happening, directly, it was a huge year for IMCA in North Dakota as a whole, because back then was when the car counts were still really, really, really big. So several tracks that year did hit over 100 cars for the IMCA modifieds. And on the stock car side, it was very interesting because when I looked at the shirt with the champions, you had Elijah #1. The Flories were second and third because they're always tough competitors across North Dakota with Dalton and Joe. Then you had Kyle Pfeiffer from Wisconsin was #4 in points, and fifth in points was Kurt Lund.
It's been a while since Kurt's been with us.
It has been, and Kurt still runs his stock car. He runs his stock car more than his mod these days, but still very competitive at the stock car, which is actually funny because I was actually just watching a race from Arlington this year a few weeks back, and Kurt was on that highlight reel as well with his stock car. So I was like, that's actually pretty cool to see. In your mod side, so Johnny was second, third was Grabo. Gordon Grabowski was third within points for that year. Fourth in points was Walla. So the Big Show was #4, and then Justin O'Brien was fifth in points that year. So kind of a really neat mix of drivers that were into the points during that season here as part of the 28th annual, because this is the 29th annual shirt that has those winners on the back.
So I'm confusing the 2 years because I think I was helping with the broadcast on this year in particular, but I can't remember if this was the year that we stormed down in Estevan and Jessup had.
No,
did
this
you have
wasn't
a
it.
family emergency that year?
Oh, this
26
one. No,
2016 is the year that Estevan rained out because that was my very first year on tour.
oh, that's when I met
2017
Becca.
yes. And then 2017 might have been the year that Jessup had a family emergency and had to miss out on night 1 or 2.
Nope, 2018 was
Yes.
when I
Okay, because there was one because I had to do like the main camera up in Estevan, and we stormed out in the middle of the night in the middle of the racing event.
Yeah, I remember
Could
the
have been
pictures up there.
2017.
Okay.
I think this was 2017, and the reason why I remember from this year from the shirt, from the 28th annual shirt, because the year that Dirt Nights was there was also the year that Walla ended up winning the national championship.
Oh yeah.
And they went to Canada that year for the Dirt Nights
Yes.
Yep.
because I remember Corey Drips. He was the one that explained his
Yes.
reasoning for not going to Canada was he had too much fun back in the day, and Canada doesn't like fun, so they wouldn't let him in. So that was his explanation as to why he couldn't go to Canada.
Because it was Corey. Because I remember in Jamestown when we walked to the pits, it was Corey, Jason were right next to each other. I think the Bash Bros were right next to him on the other side, because obviously all those guys parked together as part of the Dirt Nights crew, so they could get all the footage. And it was very interesting to watch because Justin O'Brien was right over there in that mix too. So it was very interesting from that piece, because I remember watching the kind of like the highlight video from night 1, and they were talking about some stuff right away when they were on the camera, which was kind of interesting to see. And Becca, to your surprise or to your knowledge as well, so Jeff Turnbull was 6th in points this year.
Jeb or Jeff?
Jeff.
Jeff. Where did Jeb end up?
Jeb was about 25th.
Oh, that makes sense. Yes.
Yep.
Well, thanks for the trip down memory lane. Now I kind of want to go back and look at some of those YouTube videos with the Dirt Nights. That'd be really cool to kind of get all primed up for the tour coming up this weekend. So that is who or what we are repping, and we'll move on to our track packer report, which is a little scattered because there's racing kind of taking place over several days. For my first time in my illustrious career, I guess I got to solo announce an entire race night on Thursday at the Cheyenne Speedway. Did any of you? I think John was watching. Did Becca or Jessup, did you tune in at all?
We were golfing.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And every time I golf on it, the last like 4 times I've golfed on a Thursday, it has rained out on a Friday. So I might be the reason why Mandan has rained out the last 3 races.
Oh.
And I'm not sorry. My golf game is getting good.
Okay, so Mason,
From the
I
top.
did listen to you announce on Thursday. Several parts of it, you did a really, really, really nice job by yourself, because it is a different experience. And Mason has now experienced this as well. Becca's experienced it a little bit. I have definitely been involved with this. It is different being a solo announcer compared to being somebody that you have a partner or another announcer to throw back and forth on. When you have two announcers, it's a different dynamic than when you just have one announcer up there. So it's almost like a different style of announcing when you're doing just one person compared to back when you have basically an announcer and a co-announcer as well.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously I listened to the entirety of the broadcast afterwards, and obviously doing some self-reflection. I thought it went pretty well. I think everything went pretty smoothly. I think I could have done a better job of plugging some of the sponsors, whether it's for car classes or even sponsors for like the street stock tour that was there. That was one thing I thought of. I'm like, oh, I didn't really mention that at all. But, first time, can kind of just grow and advance from there. But overall, I had a really fun time. It was a good night of racing. Originally I wasn't scheduled to be the main announcer. It was supposed to be Corey Litton, but with the World of Outlaws show on Wednesday and West Fargo getting pushed to Thursday, that meant he, with the sport mods, was going to be in West Fargo. So that left me to kind of fill the void. And so I hope everyone enjoyed it that was listening or there in the stands, because it was a fun time from my vantage point. And so just a couple other quick takeaways from Cheyenne on Thursday. I was very pleased with the street stock representation. We had several drivers from Wisconsin come over. Some of them for the very first time visiting the Cheyenne Speedway, including Nick Trainer, Jeff Nowak, Kyle Jeanette, just to name a couple. And they put on a really good show. The track was really tacky. I was actually surprised how tacky it was for the entire night. So they were putting up some really quick speeds around the quarter mile. And kind of was interesting to see one of the new faces in the Wissota mods, Brent Polskamp. I know John recognizes that name from Wahpeton, and he made his first appearance of the season at Cheyenne Speedway. So nice to see a new face come out of the woodworks in the Wissota mods. And so getting into the results, which kicked off with the NX Legends. And this was a fun race to call because you had Sean Johnson, Dusty Munn, and Colin Compson up at the front putting on a show. They had several cautions throughout the race. And so Sean was kind of like behind Colin for a majority of that race, trying to like close in on him, and then a caution would fall, so it would wreck his momentum. And finally, they had like a nice run of the checkers where Sean got to throw a couple last ditch efforts to get around Colin. I don't believe the two made contact in 3 and 4, but it was awfully close. They were 3 wide for a brief moment, and Sean edged out Dusty Munn as Colin spun out of corner 4 to get the feature win. And if you haven't seen that victory lane celebration and interview, you have to go check it out because it was one of the best ones that you'll see this season. Sean was pretty pumped up in victory lane. So big congrats out to the 58 of Sean Johnson for the win there. Hobby stocks. This guy's been dominating all year down there and kind of around the region. Jaden Michelson, the 95, didn't take long for him to get up to the front and storm out to what looked like to be an easy win for him. And I think that's at least 3 in a row that he's had at the Cheyenne Speedway. So he's on a big roll in the hobby stocks. Mini stocks. This is this guy's first career win. Chandler Dick in the 66. He's been putting up some good runs the last few weeks, and he was pretty much quick all night, like almost dominated his heat race and got out to the lead and stormed away for the win. So big congrats out to Chandler Dick in the 66. Modified's another guy that's dominating. Joseph Thomas in the 6ST held off a few challenges from Superman Mike Stearns and got his 3rd win down at the Cheyenne Speedway in 2023. The Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. So Justin the Wolverine Vogel, he was probably would say Cheyenne Speedway is probably not his best track, but when it's tacky, he's very, very tough to beat and played right into his favor, was working the high side. He got around Kyle Anderson early and pretty much walked away with the win there. So big win for Justin Vogel in number 10. And then Midwest Mods was another good race to finish out the evening. Nate Ranke got out to lead early, and then Jern Whipstead worked the high side halfway through and got around him with just a few laps to go. So Jern Whipstead got another win. I believe that was 2 in a row at that point, coming off the Rebel Midwest Mod Tour win over at Norman County Raceway. So that was the Thursday night adventures over at the Cheyenne Speedway on June 30th. So moving on to Friday, I got to a racetrack, but I didn't see any racing action. So I'm going to open to you, the Bismarck gang, to tell us what your Friday night experience was like.
Good, go ahead.
Who?
Becca, you can start.
Oh, I thought you cut off there at the beginning. Anyways, yeah, we traveled up to the McLean County Speedway in Underwood, North Dakota. We were asked to come. John and I were asked to come announce up there, and we were happy to do so. I love going to McLean County Speedway. It's such a fun and a completely different atmosphere that we typically get on a Friday night. So it's fun to go to up there to help them out. They had a lot of cars. They had over 90 cars, 91 if I'm remembering correctly, healthy car counts in all they had 7 car classes, and they had the IMCA A-mods up there as well. So they had 7 car classes last Friday, and it seems so far away. It seems like last Friday was like weeks ago, but so my brain's a little fuzzy, but they had really healthy car counts. It was a really nice night for racing, and completely different racing surface than we last saw at Underwood, because John, Jessup, and I went up a few weeks prior for their late model special, and that particular day they had like 2 inches of rain, and the track was super tacky, and had a little bit of character that night, just because they didn't have a whole lot of time to work with the track because of how much rain they got in the morning. But so last Friday had a fantastic racing surface, full crowd in the grandstands, full pit area as well, and just overall just a great night of racing up in Underwood.
Nice. And so you and John got to announce. Jessup, were you kind of taken in as a fan, or did you have any other duties that you kind of got to experience throughout the night?
It was a good experience just to watch, listen, take in the sights and sounds, and hear feedback from people.
That's always good too. It's kind of nice to kind of take a step back and kind of enjoy the night rather than have to worry about work necessarily.
Yep, totally agree.
So Mason, I'll go through results then.
Go ahead.
Just on
There were 7 winners.
So there were 7 winners, which Jessup is correct.
Which would mean that there'd be roughly 84 people who were not winners.
Let's verify this, Jessup, to see what their car count was for sure, to make sure that you are right. So, because I mean, we'll just make sure on here. Yes, you are right, because it was 91.
Thank you, John.
So yeah,
I get a gold star today.
Right. So, okay, so into the trophy class. So trophy class, again, any driver can run that class with a car on that one too. So it was Rick Styler that ended up winning that. So Rick was the winner within there in his 15 modified. In your Legends division, this was a very hard-fought battle between Preston Martin and Donovan Weiss. Donovan started 26 out of 27 cars on the field and ended up second. And Preston ended up taking home the win that night. Your wingless sprints, it was Steve Nordrum who ended up winning first time over there in the wingless sprint car division. So that was kind of cool to see for Steve. He's out of Devil's Lake. In your sport mods, it was kind of a very interesting race up front there for a little bit within your sport mod division, but Stan Tomlinson ended up picking up the win. He was driving a Ken Statics 72 Midwest mod or a sport mod. So he ended up taking home that feature win. In your stock cars were another very interesting race, as where they were getting ready for the tour starting up next week. And it was funny because Adam Goff ended up winning. Becca interviewed him in Victory Lane. Becca also interviewed him last year in Victory Lane before this happened and said, hey, is this a good prep for the tour? And he's like, well, last year we talked before the tour also, and it wasn't a very good omen. So we're going to hope this year is better. So that was where Adam ended up picking up the win over there in his stock car this past Friday. In your hobby stock division, it was Caden Appelt. Caden and Brenner Grinstead were putting on a show up front. Caden ended up picking up the feature win in your hobbies. And in your mods, they had a very nice field of 19 modifieds that showed up there on Friday night. And Brady Biello was in another zip code and picked up a feature win as he gets prepped here for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour starting on Saturday. So that was your night in Underwood. Just a good night overall.
It was also $1,000 to win. So and it attracted quite a few big names from across the state. So congratulations to Brady Biella. This, I believe, will put him in the All-Star or All Shafts All-Star ballot for later this year for Super Nationals.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, well, it sounded like a really fun night over in Underwood. That AMOD show is always definitely one of the popular ones. It's definitely I haven't been over there in the last couple of years, but I know sitting in the stands with you three, it can get really wild for some of those races, especially when the AMODs hit the track.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially if you have the fans there that are from Bozeman, that always like the Bozeman racetrack. You know, they know everything about racing.
I mean, Bozeman.
Yeah.
God, I love saying that. That makes me
Jessup
laugh.
nailed that one.
He did.
He
He
did.
really did.
That was quite the night. Yeah, so awesome night in Underwood on, I believe that was I think that was June
June
30th.
30th.
30th, yeah. Confusing my
It was
days.
so long ago.
It was so long ago. Like I had a hard time remembering all the things from last Friday.
One
Well, I mean,
can
Becca
say
had
it
problems.
was last week.
Becca had problems remembering things, from yesterday to do picks. So, I mean, Friday it seems like a complete blur. So, Mason, on to Saturday.
On to Saturday, I made the long trek from Rochester up to Fergus Falls, and John also made the long trek over from Bismarck because the World of Outlaws were in town. They had completed a 3-night swing, or this was the third of their 3 nights. So they raced Thursday in Red River Valley, Friday night at River Cities, and Saturday was their final stop, at least up in the upper Midwest for the weekend. And so I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to the World of Outlaw late models up to this point, and so I was kind of surprised at some of the names that have been kind of following the tour. Obviously, I saw like a big name like Bobby Pierce that kind of joined on. I know we kind of talked at the beginning of the year. It's like, I wonder how long he's going to stay on the World of Outlaws circuit. Maybe you might kind of tail off or kind of do some other big money shows. But it was cool to see him. Cool to see him, guys like Brian Shirley, Brandon Shepard, Kyle Bronson, just to name a few. And
Like Marler.
What's that?
Mike Marler.
Mike Marler, yep, because I believe Mike Marler won on Thursday in River Valley, and then Ryan Gustin run on Friday in River Cities up to that point. So, very stout field of late models, and it's always interesting too because they leave like the track. Let's like using Grand Forks as an example. So they leave the track Friday, and they already make their way down to like the next track that night. So I think that's a little bit different way that they travel. I'm surprised that they don't like get a hotel in town, but they like to go to the next venue that
they usually leave.
Night, so
interesting.
Wonder why they do that. And also on hand were the Wissota Midwest Mods and the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour as well, which I was actually surprised with how many were in each class. 30 plus in both of them. So plenty of support for the World of Outlaw late models on hand, and it kind of made for a long night in one way. We had a bit of a lengthy track prep session after all the heats had completed, which actually turned out to put on a really good show for the World of Outlaw late models. Like that race was fantastic to watch.
Yeah, that feature was super entertaining, and it's because they were on the top, they were in the middle, they were on the bottom, and right away the bottom was pretty fast until they found the high side as well. The high side started coming in. That's where Pierce just took off when he got to the high side and ended up going from there. But then the bottom started coming in again, and they were reeling him in on the bottom. So Bobby went back down to the bottom, and it's so funny because his dad actually, how they get pit signals. His dad was giving pit signals, and he's like, "Get down, like to the bottom." You could see him over on the back straightaway, and it was so funny because he got to the bottom and he didn't mind the bottom, but Bobby's like, "No, I'd rather be up next to the wall." Well, the reason why his dad probably didn't want him on the wall directly is because they were literally running the wall. There was several drivers that were sparking off the wall each and every turn, and the wall in turn 4 was literally right next. The berm in turn 4 was right on the wall. So you came out of turn 4 and you literally were smacking the wall every single time if you were running the high side with the rear end of the car. So it was very interesting to watch from there. But yeah, like Mason said, it was super entertaining to watch guys like Kyle Bronson run off the wall. Nick Hoffman was running right off the wall. And then you had Ryan Gustin, who was kind of a dark horse a little bit in that race. He started pretty deep in the field, and he was just slowly but surely working his way to the front and got to 4th.
Yeah, he started 15th and got to 4th.
Yeah, and he was kind of like a sleeper because he really didn't know how much he was moving forward because he wasn't being super entertaining probably doing it. He was just slowly but surely working his way to the front of the 50 laps. And yeah, so it was just an entertaining race overall from our perspective when we were watching it.
Yeah, the last time I watched the World of Outlaws in Fergus Falls was 2 years ago, I believe it was. And like Brandon Shepard absolutely tore the rear deck lid off of his late model running the wall then. And so I kind of was hoping that people were riding the wall because, yeah, they put on a show when they were like screaming along the wall all around I-94. So it was a really good show.
Jessup, how was your experience to Fergus Falls with the World of Outlaw late models?
Well, it was wet. Actually, yeah, it was very wet.
I mean, but it was only a shower, remember? It'll be fine. It'll dry up.
Well, the storm was too far north, according to one individual.
Well, I don't know.
So-
I know who you're talking about.
Me neither. I mean, it's not the person that's on the front row either.
Nope, not at all. We'll get you
Hmm.
there eventually for a race, Jessup.
We will. We'll get you there.
At least you got to the facility.
Yes.
And
Jessup, we'll get you in.
So
We'll get you
fun,
inside the facility next time.
fun fact about that. I have yet to see what the track actually looks like.
I know. That's why we need to get you
I
in the
never even
facility.
got to see what a front stretch or corner.
No.
Nope.
This is why you need to come with us for the Whistler 100 this year and just come for one of the nights, and then you can join us for racing action.
John, there was another night of Mason just being too dang obsessed with canceling races with his monsoon-like powers.
That was
I
a
mean,
rough day.
So that day was yeah, that day was hilarious. And then you show up in Jamestown, and here comes this random little storm system that pops up right to the west of the racetrack. And Becca's like, "Look at this! This is all because Mason is here."
By the way, I have a bone to pick out with all of you because you know how much crap I got on Tuesday night in Jamestown because it was cloudy and dark.
No,
Yeah, I didn't even
please
say a
tell
word.
us. No, please tell us.
No, we'll get to that.
Wow. Let me
We'll get
hear
to that
this,
here in the
Mason.
rundown as we get a little bit farther into it.
We'll get it
Okay,
to
so
that
Mason.
a little bit.
Back
But-
to the Midwest mods and streets.
But yeah, well, yeah. So Word of Outlaws, Bobby Pierce won. Brandon Shepard was second from 9th, and Tanner English, who looked really good all night, solid
Yes.
3rd place finish. And like we said, Ryan Gustin, 15th up to 4th. He looked like junk in the heat race.
Yeah, he did not look good even at qualifying. Qualifying, he just looked like, yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is funny because he won the night before.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I was expecting him to be up towards the front, and no, beginning of the night, he
Nope.
did not look good.
Nope.
So then Midwest Modified. So Midwest Mods and Streets ran after the late models. They kind of were shuffling the order kind of based on how the night was playing out. And so the Midwest Mods took the track after, I believe it was like a Street Stock B main, and then they went out. And so the track was pretty slicked off. Kind of the top or bottom half was kind of a little more rubbered than the top half. And so I honestly think that played into the wheelhouse of the winner, who was Lucas Rodin.
Oh, yes.
He didn't start too far back, and once he got to the front, it was pretty much game over for the rest of the field. So Lucas Rodin got the win in the Midwest Mods in front of Shane Howell, Cole Boston, Justin Van Epps, and Mike Nichols. So, I mean, that's a stout top 5, but that's
And Mason,
definitely...
it reminded me a couple of years ago when Rodin won the 100 on his
Yep.
way to the national championship, because the track was very similar in nature. And that year, Rodin had over a straightaway lead when he took the checkered flag for his
Yeah.
100 victory. And it reminded me exactly of that, just with the way that the track was set up, almost exactly the same.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, it reminded me so much of the 100. And then the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour finished off the night. We had a returner to the racing this past weekend after a brief stint of retirement or break, however you want to put it. Mr. Kyle Dykoff out of Starbuck. He got back behind the wheel of a street stock this weekend, started 5th and got to lead around Kyle Jeanette late in the race and held on for his first street stock tour win of 2023. Jeanette was 2nd. Nick Trainer, who won on Friday night, was 3rd. Eric Riley, 14th to 4th, and Andrew Hansen from Iron River, Wisconsin, rounded out the top 5. So
It's
very
really
solid
nice
field
to
of
see
street
Kyle.
stocks.
It's really nice to see Kyle back in the street and back on the racetrack. I know a lot of people did not expect it this year, because I think his plan was to take maybe a year off, maybe even a couple years off. But it was nice to see him get the street. And I was thinking right away, I was like, well, maybe he's running somebody else's car. Nope, it's his own car. He's got a really slick paint scheme on it. And he looked really good on Saturday night, just for his second night out this year. And it's obviously not the same chassis that he had last year. So just to even get familiar with it was nice to see. But yeah, it's nice to see Kyle back out and racing again this year. And who knows, maybe he'll travel to some of our area local tracks here throughout the year, as well as we get closer to invitationals.
Yep, definitely a nice surprise to see at the track this weekend. So that was Saturday. Sunday, I actually ventured out to the Thunder Mountain Speedway in Bottineau. This is my first time back to Bottineau since 2018, so it's been quite a little ways since I've been there. And so they had the special IMCA Modifieds in attendance. I believe from listening there and on the broadcast, they hadn't had Modifieds there in about over 20 years. And so it's a real treat for the fans there to see IMCA Modifieds there. stock cars were also on hand. That's not one of their regular classes they typically run, and also they had IMCA hobby stocks, sport mods, and sport compacts. And so fireworks show after the program, which that brought out a lot of fans. And kind of the way Thunder Mountain is set up, it's kind of set up on a hill. And so like they have a couple of like small bleachers, then you can kind of sit on the hill a little bit, kind of bring your lawn chairs out. And so that was pretty much full. So they had a really good turnout of fans for their racing. A little light on the car count, but action on the track was pretty fierce. The track was really tacky, had a little bit of character. And so they clicked through the heat races really quickly, and they only had one caution in all the feature races combined. One caution. That wasn't until the last one with the modified. So they clicked through the program pretty darn quick. And so starting off with the IMC Sport Mods from Lampin, Saskatchewan, Ryland Raynard held off Gabe Deschamps, who's been on a hot streak this year. So big congrats out to Ryland Raynard for getting the Sport Mod win. Light car count in the stock cars, they had 3 of them show up, and Jordan Boyce got the win there. The IMCA Sport Compacts, first time winner there, Zach Eubanks in the 27Z, maneuvered through lap traffic, chased down the 81 of Chris Yost, and made the winning pass with just about a lap to go. And so big congrats out to Zach Eubanks for getting his first career win. He was racing his dad's Brian's car, because I believe his other cars kind of got some damage. And so very, very big win for Zach. The IMCA Hobby Stocks, Kyler Satrin, another guy that's been on a hot streak this year, got to the front pretty quickly and held off all challengers for the win there. And then IMCA Modifieds to close out the evening went to Wayne Johnson in his 40th year racing, and he held off a hard-charging Justin Smalls Medler. Medler had to start pretty deep in the field, just I think ran out of laps, was slowly reeling him in, but Wayne Johnson looked pretty stout on Sunday night up in Botno. Monday, Wilson Racing got canceled. I was actually scheduled to go there. I was scheduled to go there, but then I was actually very exhausted from the weekend, so I was actually going to skip. So having it rained out was kind of a blessing for me, so it kind of gave me a night off to spend with family and friends and light off some fireworks. So, which led into the 4th of July, which John and I were at the Jamestown Speedway to close out the holiday weekend. So, John, what were your takeaways from Jamestown?
3 things. A lot of cars, 110 cars in the pits. So, I mean, you use Jessup's line here. So, quite a bit of cars. Stands were packed. A ton of people were there. So, that was really cool to see. Mason's got a really nice picture of that he actually posted on Facebook, that the main grandstands with the overhang is just, I mean, it's full. It actually kind of looks like a stock car stampede with how many people are directly there. And then third of all was a lot of very hard fought racing. I mean, there was a ton of a little bit of beating and banging throughout the night too. So yeah, so we saw quite a bit of that throughout the night before the the fireworks truly were shot off at 10:30 after the racing program.
I think we were talking to Tim and Allison afterwards. Didn't they sell out of like 500 tickets at 7:03 or something?
Yeah, they sold out over 500 and some tickets at 7 o'clock time frame. And by the time, and then they printed more, sold out more of those. And then we're finally just, I think, like marking people on the hand when they were walking in somewhere within there too. So the final count, based on what they had told us, it sounds like probably over 1,000 fans were in the grandstands.
Yeah. Like that was, I haven't seen that many fans there in a long time besides at the Stampede. I mean, it was a jam-packed stands, especially in the middle section.
It was huge.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I think, John kind of matched all my takeaways. I think it was really cool to see the top 3 in Wissota National Points in the street stocks. We had the Browers there along with Tucker Peterson. So some different travelers we got to see make their way over to Jamestown Speedway as well on Tuesday night. So really made for some great and interesting racing throughout the night. And so slingshots, Mason, I'll kind of take the first couple of classes.
Mason, what about the 3-stock car count? I mean, 26 3 stocks. I was super impressed by that.
Yeah, 26 street stocks on a Tuesday night. That was pretty dang good. And yeah, no slouches there either. So feature action, Slingshots kicked it off. 3 of them in attendance, and AJ Matsky, who's been on a bit of a roll lately. I got the feature win in the Slingshots, and so that's nice to see AJ get a couple wins under his belt this season. And then Bombers, John, that was a that was an entertaining race, I would say, especially up towards the latter part of the race.
Oh yeah, it was super entertaining. And I think the reason for that was because there was a ton of beating and banging, but there was also a lot of movers and shakers. But then Joe Jacobson and Travis Ettinger were put on a show out front to where Travis showed his line to Joe right before the caution came out. Joe took the line away, ended up winning the race for his first win of the year. So yeah, that was kind of cool to see on there too. And Travis was runner up on his birthday.
Yeah, almost got that birthday present.
Yep.
Would have been a cool story, but yeah, once Joe kind of saw him underneath them, it's like, yep, that might be game over. So, but yeah, good race in the Bombers too. They had a really good field of cars there too. I believe next was Midwest Modifieds, and Brendan Waite got out front pretty quickly, held off Lucas Rodin. Rodin was making some challenges early in the race and then kind of fell off. I believe with about 10 laps to go, I was reading their Facebook post today, and they lost a wheel bearing about that time in the race, and so I'm sure that messed with the handling quite a bit.
It was really interesting to watch though, because Brennan was high in turns 1 and 2 and Lucas was low in 1 and 2, and then in 3 and 4 they would swap. Brennan would be low and then Lucas would go high. So it was very interesting to watch that from a different line perspective. And I think before that happened to Lucas, it would have been a very interesting battle, because he was several times was on the bottom of Brennan in 1 and 2, and then making ground on the high side of 3 or 4. So yeah, so it was quite interesting to watch that race and that dynamic. And those two are super good friends.
Mhm.
So it's kind of interesting to watch those two, as they've been top runners in the Midwest Mods for quite a few years.
Yeah. And Zach Reicke was kind of like watching the battle unfold in third, kind of by himself. I was really watching Jaron Wibstead. I think he was getting held up mid-pack, and I think he was one of the fastest cars on the track and just couldn't get going.
Yep.
So
Yep. And it was nice to see Jory Berg there. So Jory from Grand Forks was down there and finished 4th. Won his heat, finished 4th, so he had a good night.
Yep. Really good to see Jory come over on the 4th of July, because that's a long trek over from Grand Forks.
It is.
And then the NX Legends, well, there's a little bit of beating and banging in this feature as well, which is not necessarily a class that you want to see a whole lot of beating and banging. I believe we had a decent sized pile up on the first or second lap that took out a couple of cars, but thankfully everyone was okay from that, and turned into a battle of rep between Evan Hendrickson, Alex Kukowski, and Preston Martin, and those three put on quite a show up front.
Yeah, you can even throw, if you look at even the results with everything on there too, you had, Colin Thompson was up towards the front. Glenn Mitchell ran up towards the front quite a bit. It was actually the top 4 there they were side by side for quite a few laps between Evan and Preston. And then, like Mason had mentioned too, you had obviously Glenn was right there into it, and then Alex was kind of coming through the field a little bit too. So that battle up front was really interesting and kind of entertaining to watch on the different lines they were taking. But yeah, those top 4 were put on a show up front before caution waved right as they crossed the start finish line for the white flag. They took the white flag, and then they had a wreck right behind them on the front straightaway, and it wasn't anything bad. It was just a couple of cars that had spun out, got together, and that ended the race. And I was going to be very curious to see if Preston had anything for Alex, because he kind of tracked down Alex there with only a couple laps left when they were in lap traffic, and they were in heavy lap traffic when they took the white flag.
Yeah, that would have been interesting to see how that last lap would have played out. So congrats.
And Becca, Alex has his stock car back together. I had asked him directly on that question at Jamestown last night. I said, is the stock car ready? He said, yes, it's done and ready.
There we go. So Becca will be able to watch him in person for the first time, according to her.
For the first time ever. Or I mean, the third.
I hate you all.
I'm sorry, Becca. Love ya. But big congrats
Again, how
out to
does John
Alex
remember
Kukowski.
the little stuff? Like,
oh, we have steel traps for memories.
Yes, we have steel traps. Mason and I don't forget hardly anything.
But yeah, Alex Kukowski won from 11th, Preston Martin 2nd, Evan Hendrickson 3rd, Ryan Erdahl 4th, and Donovan Weiss rounded out your top 5. And also shout out to the Legend drivers. They did a nice little salute and little missing man formation for Ricky Rico, who we lost last week. And so they had Josh Black in the 19J had a flag with Ricky's honor and on the flag. And so they did a nice little tribute before their feature race. And so that was really, really cool to see.
Plus, give it out to Josh too. He donated money to the feature for the Legends. He donated $69 in memory of the Ricos, because that is Brandon's number when he still is racing. So he gave an extra $69 to the winner for the feature. and then also gave $50 to be given away to a random draw number throughout the feature. And then also to the Hagans with both Dustin and also with Weston, their dad donated $200 to the Legends last night as well. And those were also split into $50 drawings for random draw winners through the feature. So there was 5 drawers in the Legends that got an extra $50 last night, based on just random pill draw after the feature was done when we drew out numbers, and those were posted on Facebook this morning as well. So yeah, thank you guys so much for donating over to the purse.
Yeah. So overall, good showing for the NX Legends as always. They put on a really good show over at Jamestown. We had the street stocks with all 26 of them taken to the track. They also had some beating and banging, some fun racing to watch. Hunter Damagala started inside row 2 and started behind Dustin Erickson. Those two kind of exchanged a little bit of passing for the first few laps before Hunter kind of got out front and kind of held his own in front of the rest of the field. I know I was watching, Braden Brower obviously is a really fun guy to watch make his way towards the front. The Chris were mired deep in the field along with Tucker Peterson and Kyle Anderson. So it's interesting to see like the caliber of drivers that are kind of trying to make their way towards the front. But Hunter seemed like he had it pretty much under cruise control for that entire race.
Yeah, his first win since the Stock Car Stampede in 2021 in Jamestown. So it was nice to see Hunter pick up another victory over there as well. Dustin finished second. Third spot was Kyle Anderson. Chris Ritter had a very strong run in fourth. Actually, at one point, I think Chris might have been one of the fastest cars on the track, because him and Kyle were really battling towards the end of that race for positions as well. And then Tucker Peterson was top 5.
Yep. So there was definitely some heavy hitters up at the front and still heavy hitters deeper in the field. So now that was definitely a stacked field of cars in Minnesota street stocks. And then the IMCA Modifieds closed out the program. And so Scotty Gardner, who had an interesting start to the night, I will say, got himself in a little bit of an altercation in the heat race on lap 1.
In the race, yep.
Kind of resulted in a little bit of carnage, but he redeemed himself. He got to the front just a few laps in and absolutely set it on kill mode. And I mean, it was not even close for a while.
Yeah, he was 3 seconds. He was about almost 3.5 seconds ahead of the field at one point. And then a caution came out with 5 laps to go. I did use Becca's line on the mic that it did change everything, because it tightened the field right back up. And it allowed Eric Edwards, for his first time out this year, pulled the car out. Actually, he said last night he pulled the car out of the trailer from the Stampede just a few days ago, got it ready, put it back in the trailer, and then ran it last night. So he had a really nice run up into second during that feature event. And one of the drivers, Masons, that I want to give a shout out to, though, actually, I might wait. I'm going to wait for wins of the week on this driver directly on there too. But I'm also going to go through, and Jacoby Trout finished right up there towards the front. Lucas Rodin was right up there towards the front of the field as well. And Andy Cap had a really nice run last night and finished in third.
Yep. Yeah. So your top 5 was Scott Gardner in the 0 with the win, Eric Edwards from 10th to 2nd, Andy Cap in 3rd, Jacoby Trout 4th, and Lucas Rodin, who was in that heat race altercation, from 15th up to 5th. So definitely some passing going on last night at the Jamestown Speedway, and they had an awesome fireworks show to close out the night of racing. So that was a fun experience. Nice to spend the 4th in Jamestown.
That Mason, your first time over there on the 4th?
That was my first time there on the 4th. Yep.
So yeah, usually the 4th of July. It's nice too, because it's nice to see that a lot of drivers come out, celebrate Independence Day with us as when we're over there as part of the racing night. And then also the fireworks display from Cavendish Farms is always a highlight of the night as well.
Yeah, and they did a really good job on the fireworks display. I was really impressed with that.
Yep.
Awesome. So that is the Track Pack report from a busy 4th of July in Canada Day, holiday weekend. And so we'll move on into what's upcoming this weekend. I have no idea what's coming up this weekend, but Mr. Dakota Dirt, do you want to let us know?
I can't.
I love that, how he just stops. So, again, race fans, if you want your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing results, recaps, weather forecasts, news, and much more, you need to check out Dakota Dirt. They are on social media platforms. They are also on their website at dakotadirt.org. You can never go wrong checking them out. They do not give you any type of miscommunication. So check it out at Dakota Dirt. Again, dakotadirt.org, or check them out on their Facebook page and leave them a 5-star rating on Facebook.
you can leave us a 5-star rating too, and I'll read it out loud. Well, anything I say is out loud, but you get the point. Whatever.
I'm really
Anyways,
kind of wondering though. So, because Mason, have we been getting any 5-star reviews or anything else?
yeah,
Well,
Mason.
Usually I
Why-
get notifications if they submit a review, but I haven't received any lately.
Okay, the
Maybe-
reason why I really think Jessup is scaring them away with reading this review out loud. So
Oh.
Why
people
won't
just
you
give us
review
5 stars.
us? No. Anyways, we were pretty busy coming up here, so I took the time today to put pretty much the next week and a half on the old schedule update, and starting on July 6th, the Tri-County Speedway is back in action. July 7th is the big night over at the Dakota Speedway, as it is Night of the Legends and the Mama Vetter Hobby Stock race as well. So that's going to be a big race there. Plus, we may have a few travelers sneaking in from the west who may want to get a few laps in at the old Dakota Speedway for the IMCA Modifieds to prep themselves for the mod tour. River Cities is also racing Friday night. Then we move to Saturday, which is the kickoff of the Dakota Classic Mod Tour at Jamestown Speedway. Then the Saturday night we'll also be seeing Devil's Lake racing. From there, the tour packs it up and heads north to Nodak up in Minot. And you know, Mason, why not just go to Minot on the second night of the tour? And from there, we get to go see our friends north of the border on Monday. And that'll be up at the Estevan Motor Speedway. So that'll be an exciting time. And I guarantee you that place is packed and it's going to be rocking, I bet. And they got really good just real friendly people there. So if you get to follow the tour or just want to go on an early week race, get up to Estevan and support that race. From Estevan, we come back into the States and we go over to Williston Basin. And then from Williston, we drop on down to the Southwest Speedway. And then on Thursday, we got a couple tracks racing as Dakota Speedway closes out the modified tour along with the stock cars for their championship night. And then it is night one of the Tri-County Fair over at Wishick. And that'll be, I believe that's going to be the third night. Or is that the third night of the Mama Vetter, John?
That is yes.
Okay,
The first night in Wishick for the fair is the third night of the Mama Vetter. Because the Mama Vetter second night is this week Friday in Mandan.
Yep, and then the very next night, I believe, is the fourth night of it as well.
Yes. Yep,
So,
that's the championship night of it. Yep.
Yep. So championship night of the Mama Vetter Hobby Stock series is going to be in Wishick on Friday night, and then the 14th. Like I said, this is multiple weeks going on here, Mason.
Yes.
There's a lot
Yeah.
going on because I probably will forget to do an update next week when we're live in
Yep.
some pit in some place in the
Yep.
dirt. But anyways, so the 14th is also got the big 2000 to win stock car race up at the McLean County Speedway. So that should have a pretty good turnout. Hopefully they may get a few stragglers from the mod tour to hang around and go after some big money. So that would be a good time for them. The 15th looks like River Cities is racing. Why?
I think that's IRA sprints.
Oh, that's right. That is the King of the Wing. 14th should be River Cities as well.
Yep.
As it is all sprint cars those two nights up there. And we got the IRA versus the NOSA Outlaws. And it'll be a good time. If you like sprint cars, go see them. And then you got the Western Renegades taking on, I think the Northern Renegades are going to be joining them over there as well, along with the Minn Kota Lightning Sprints. So if you're a fan of sprint car racing, get over there and support River Cities. It's a really good couple nights of racing there. Meanwhile, Jamestown will be kicking it back off again on Saturday, along with Devil's Lake and Thunder Mountain. And then closing the week off, it's going to be Nodak. Well, Nodak shouldn't have one. Why do I have
Nope,
Nodak?
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne. What? I might have mislabeled these. Shame on me.
And I believe Cheyenne's the
did.
Top Gun night. I could be wrong on that.
Well, according to the calendar, it is Top Gun night with Wasota A mods, Wasota B mods, Wasota Street Stocks, NX Legends, and Hobby Stocks and Mini Stocks. So there you have it, folks. A week and a half worth of coverage to be observed and taken in. If you cannot get out to a racetrack, make sure you try to find a broadcast to watch something and support the tracks and the races, because they definitely appreciate you for doing that.
Absolutely. There's a lot of racing taking place. Although once Sunday hits, it's basically just one event per night for the most part in the state of North Dakota. So
until about Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday gets a little bit convoluted again. So
Yep.
I'll just do the next week's worth of racing outside the state of North Dakota. So Thursday the 6th, we have KRA Speedway and Victory Lane Speedway as usual on Thursday night. Friday night, we have Fiesta City Speedway in Montevideo. I believe it's their Super Stock Special 1,000 win this week. Brown County Speedway, who's been doing a lot of promotional work for this one, they have their Meet the Drivers night on Friday. They have a lot of prizes and stuff for the kids. And so if you're down in that area, be sure to check out that night, because that's a very popular night down there in Aberdeen. Saturday, Greenbush Race Park has the rescheduled Rebel Midwest Mod Tour and also the original date for the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. So hopefully we're able to get that one in. We have yet to get a Street Stock Tour race in the books there in Greenbush. And so hopefully this weekend is that time where we can do that. And so welcome back to Becca, by the way, whose computer kind of went a lap down, so to speak. Madison Speedway is in action on Saturday, as well as the Miller Central Speedway, North Central Speedway, Ogilvie, and Viking Speedway are all running on Saturday the 8th. And finishing out the weekend on the 9th, Bemidji Speedway is also having a rescheduled Meet the Drivers night because the original got rained out. Buffalo River Speedway is in action, as well as the Granite City Motor Park. So a lot of tracks took last weekend off, and most of them are back on the schedule for this upcoming weekend. So definitely have a chance to get out to some racing this weekend. I haven't looked at the forecast necessarily as far as temperature goes, but at least the last few days, it's been abnormally cool.
You know, Mason, to look at that forecast, you can go to Dakota Dirt. They have them on there as well.
This is true. Yes.
Yep. But I have looked at the forecast. Forecast for this upcoming weekend does not look bad. Knock on wood, it doesn't look terrible by any means. Again, obviously there's a few days here or there. But forecast wise is supposed to be kind of where it's going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be about 80 degrees for a high, and it's going to be right around that mid to upper 70, lower 80 degree temperature day.
Not hot enough.
So it is perfect racing weather here at the beginning of July. It is not.
It's Mod Tour week. It has to be 100 degrees and I'm sweating in spots where I should not be.
And unfortunately, Becca will be in sweatshirts and a beanie.
Probably.
I was gonna say, Becca, you would have enjoyed Jamestown last night.
You would have. It was a beautiful, nice night temperature-wise. Especially if you were in the flag stand.
No. I enjoyed our adult water slide yesterday, so don't regret it. It was cold, but I don't regret it.
See, it's just priming you for this week then.
Yes. See, you're ready to go.
No, it's not hot enough. It needs to be 100 plus degrees. It's Mod Tour week, and everyone needs to be sweating in spots that no one needs to know.
So you could, all you Mod Tour fans, drivers, everyone else going to these events, if it gets 90 degrees or 100 degrees or hotter, you can throw tomatoes at Becca all week.
Yeah, I was just going to say, throw things at her, because you guys may be miserable with that type of weather, especially if it's hot and humid too. I know a lot of the guys that even come from the South. For instance, I'm going to use Shelby Williams as an example. Shelby is used to being super hot down in Texas, especially this time of year. So it's a nice break for him to come up here and experience our 80s to 90-degree temperatures. And this weekend, he's going to even get to experience some mid to upper 70s. And that'll be beautiful temperatures for them for a break from the heat down there. So in other words, if Becca wants heat, she should move down south.
I might need to bring a bigger suitcase now so I can bring my
Why don't you
hoodies,
just bring two?
beanies, jackets.
Wait a second. Wait. You need a bigger suitcase for this? Don't you pack those all the time anyhow, even if it is 100 degrees?
I may
Exactly.
bring one on
And
those
just
really
like
hot
that,
years. Just one.
and just like that, once again, John was right.
Thinks he's right.
Well, speaking of mod tour, we're gonna have some predictions for who we think's gonna come out on top. But first, Becca, who are some of the latest registrations that we maybe haven't touched on yet?
So one registration that came in early this morning, Kyle Strickler will be coming on tour. He'll be racing Troy Girolamo's. I can never say his last name right, but Troy Girolamo's modified from Williston. So won't be the number 8 car that we're all used to. It's gonna be the 2G this week on tour, and he'll be racing all 6 nights. I think it was announced that Ricky Thornton Jr. was going to be on the tour. Unfortunately, that will not happen. His schedule just doesn't allow him to fly out here and fly back, and also flights to Minot are kind of scarce. So unfortunately, I think he expressed great interest in it. It just didn't pan out for his plans. I think you guys probably touched on this on last week's podcast, but Tom Berry Jr., who's your defending tour champion, he'll be running just 4 nights of the tour, as he's got USMTS plans that commitments that he needs to run off to. So he is one driver that is going to be on most of the tour, but not the whole tour. That means we're going to have a new tour champion this year. Another registration that came in early this morning was Jason Walla. Walla is going to be on the tour for the 2023 season. So that'll be he's had some great runs in the past. So he'll probably be one to look out for a potential tour championship. So let's see. Let me pull up my phone and believe that have been the big name. Cody Laney signed up last week as well. You guys probably touched on him last week. Spencer Wilson's another local driver to look out for. He's been super fast. And yeah, so should be some a nice, very diverse field of drivers, and I'm super excited.
Yeah,
So what
there's
about stock cars?
Yeah, a lot of names from outside the state of North Dakota, so that's always fun to see new travelers come in, a few new faces that we maybe haven't seen on tour yet, and some frequent travelers that come out every July. And so who wants to go first on who they think the champion is going to be in the stock cars and modifieds?
I'm gonna wait here really quick, Mason. I think I got cut out there for a second. Becca, what about stock cars? Any new drivers in stock cars that have signed that we're not aware of?
Keaton Fromke signed up. Austin Doe. Andrew Jokum signed up on the 3rd, and then Kevin Roberts signed up today. So
Okay.
he's been a regular on the tour for the last couple of years. So glad to see him sign up, even if it's just a few days before the tour starts.
Great.
Okay, so Mason, now on to you for going through and getting our lists together on who we think might be potential champions.
So does anyone want to go first on their predictions for stock cars and mods?
Think we should give it to Becca first.
Okay.
Am I just naming off one driver from each division, or should I name off who I think will be contenders overall?
One driver from each
One,
division.
because Becca will read
One.
down the list.
Yes.
This
one.
driver and this driver and
It only
this
happened
driver.
one time, and that was last year. Sorry. Okay.
Exactly. One.
My IMCA stock car champion, I believe, will be Shelby Williams. He was your runner-up in the points last season. And despite racing these tracks for just the first time, he did really well. And I think these tracks suit his driving style. And I think this year, based on last year's notes, I think he's going to come home with the championship. So super excited to see Shelby Williams make the tour. He's actually on the road. He's traveling. He's on his way up to North Dakota as we speak. So super excited to see him come back. And I think he's going to be your 2023 stock car champion. And then in the modifieds, we are going to have a brand new champion this year. I believe the champion will be Tim Ward. He's been super fast this year. He's a experienced tour veteran. So he's got tons and years of just, what? Why are you making fun of me? Tim Ward has many years of experience and notes, and he knows these tracks. I think Tim Ward will be your IMCA modified tour champion.
Well, you took one of my picks. So I can go next and Jessup and John need a little more time.
Go ahead, Mason.
So for stock cars, I'll also go with an out-of-stater. I'm going to go with Zach Madrid. I think he's a very tough competitor from out in Arizona. He always does really well up here. I think was he runner-up last year or not last year? A couple years ago, I think.
He was tour champion 2 years ago.
The tour championship. Yep.
So I think he could repeat. He's definitely capable of it. He's very fast wherever he goes and always makes his way to the front towards the end of those races. Modifieds, I was going to say Tim Ward, because at least when racing was rained out up here and we got to watch like mainly racing down in Iowa, like in Marshalltown, for example, he was almost unbeatable. So I find that he's going to probably be the top guy on my list to go for the tour championship. And until proven otherwise, that's what I'm sticking with.
All right. Well, I need Becca. Who'd you take for stock cars again?
Shelby.
Williams.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Jessup, I can go if you want to look.
No. I've got a feeling. I'm hoping. Just hoping. John. You go ahead. I got my modified guy, but you go ahead.
Okay, so this is my picks. He has not raced much this year, but he also saw a lot of these tracks for the first time last year, and that was Trent Greger, and he's a local guy. I think he's going to be very tough to beat again this year because he is the model of consistency. So, Trent, I'm gonna pick Trent. Trent might double up here within 2023 for what he did in 2022. So I'm gonna pick Trent Greger in the stock cars. In your modifieds, I am going with a driver that is returning to the tour, and that is Cody Laney. So Cody was very close to winning the championship just a few years ago. He came within only a couple of points of losing that championship to Tim Ward that year. So I'm picking Cody. I think this is the year that Cody will take home the championship because another driver that is a model of consistency when he comes up here for the tour.
I'm ready. I've got some thoughts here.
I'm glad you're ready because it's your turn.
Well, I know it's my turn because I can't stall anymore. So I'm stalling right now. So, all right, for my modified, I'm going to go with the WW1, Ricky Alvarado. He just picked up a couple big race wins this past weekend out west. He took the W at the Montana Madness for $5,000. Then he won night one of Fastest in the Falls for $2,000. So he's got a little momentum behind him right now. And I think he's got the old notebook of notes from the last couple of years racing on tour. So you got setup idea and you got some momentum behind you. If he can make it through the first two nights, I think he's going to be pretty lethal to compete against. The last one for my stock cars, I'm gonna say we're gonna be singing "Oh Canada," and Austin Doe's gonna be bringing home the big dough up to the Canadian friends and bringing the title back up to the Estevan Motor Speedway. And did you like that play on words, Mason? Yeah.
Did very good there, Jessup.
Thank you.
But Austin actually was very close to winning the championship just a few years back.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he was right in that year of that battle between Rogers, Elijah, Munoz. He was right in the thick of that mix as well for the championship.
Yep. So that's who I think.
Those are solid picks. All of us. I think that's definitely, and you touched on registrations. That doesn't mean that these are the only drivers that are going to show up. There's probably going to be some surprises too.
Oh, for sure. There'll definitely be some surprises. There'll probably be drivers that are going to sign up tomorrow on Thursday, which we might have this post on Thursday. So Thursday, or even on Friday before the tour even comes up that we're not even aware of with talent that's in the field. And one of the drivers I want to just give a shout out to is definitely Travis Hagen. I think you're going to have to watch him this year. He was runner up last year. His worst finish last year was 6th place in a future event. If it wouldn't have been for Tom Berry's, I think, just on the roll last year and domination last year, Travis might have been champion last year. And if he goes through that again this year, he's probably going to have a really good shot at it again. So yeah, so watch out for Travis in his modified. He's been tough in Nodak. He's been tough at Williston already this year and up in Estevan. So I think Travis is going to be tough on the tour no matter what.
Wasn't
Yeah.
his stat line last year like 2 seconds and like 4/6 or something?
Yes. Yep, that is correct. Yep, his first 4 nights were 6 and his last 2 were seconds.
It's a pretty solid stat line.
Yeah.
Especially against a strong field of cars from all over.
Yeah. Talk about consistent. That's freaking consistent right there.
Yep.
So that starts off Saturday at the Jamestown Speedway, the 34th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour. And so to close out the episode with our white flag, we want to give a shout out to Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro on the 12S, who is also going to be on tour. So be sure, if you're in the pits, to stop by the Sandro Snack Shack. They have all sorts of goodies. I actually got a little bit of remnants of the goodies they had this last weekend up in Botno, even though Sandro wasn't there. But Mariah brought some up to the track. And so
Nice.
be sure to stop by their pit area. They're always some of the nicest people to talk to. Keep an eye on the 12S Hot Sauce on tour this weekend. And thank you so much, Isaac, for supporting us on the podcast. And so, wins of the week. Who's got some wins of the week they'd like to share?
So I've got 2. I'm going to go first actually on this one too. So I have 2 wins of the week that I'm going to throw out there. First win of the week. I was actually going to mention him as part of our rundown, but he went over to Jamestown last night, and the driver is Chris Welk. And it's not Chris Welk Jr., it's actually Chris Welk Sr. Chris Welk Sr. ran Jamestown last night in his 1X modified. Almost won his heat. He lost it out of turn 4 on the final lap. He was second and looked really good in the mod. And he ran 20 of the 25 laps in the top 5 for that feature event. So Chris had a very strong showing last night, led the first 4 laps before Scott got around him, and then ran second for the longest time. So Chris had a really strong run last night, looked really good in his mod. Unfortunately, he got tangled up with Lucas Rodin in the feature, restarted tail end. I still think he finished 11th, if I'm not mistaken, on the field, 10th or 11th. So, but still had a really nice run over there. So congratulations to Chris. Chris looked really good in his modified last night. So I have to give that one out to him. The other win of the week, I'm going to throw it over to Minnesota once again, because I have to give the win of the week over to Kyle Dykoff. Second night in a brand new car, 30-some street stocks both nights there, and he ends up winning on night 2. And he ended up driving around Kyle Jeanette for that win, which we all know is not an easy task to do anywhere, especially not in Fergus. Kyle is really strong in Fergus Falls. So congratulations out there to Kyle Jeanette not Kyle Jeanette, Kyle Dykoff for the win there on night 2 over there in Fergus Falls for the World of Outlaws on July 1st.
Saw a couple of wins. I like both of those. Becca or Jessup, do you want to go next?
Well, I will go next because I would like to actually get a chance to say a couple names before Becca rattles off her 8. Anyways, I'm gonna continue on with my Dakota Classic Mod Tour pick. I'm going to say my first one goes out to Ricky Alvarado. He made plenty of hay when the sun was shining. He came home with 2 big wins. And like I said, 5,000 and 2,000. It's definitely good to be on that momentum swing going into a big week of racing. My second one goes out to Preston Martin. NX Legend driver. He's now won at 6 different tracks this year, and that's pretty impressive. He's been on a tear this year, and we're talking about momentum going into big races. The Dakota Speedway's hosting Night of the Legends, which each divisional winner, there's going to be 2 races, one for Young Lions and semi-pro, and one for pro and the Masters divisions. And each winner or each divisional winner takes home a check for $1,500, and that's a really healthy check size for NX Legends. So perfect time to be riding in with some momentum. And those are going to be my 2 wins of the week.
Another couple solid ones. Go ahead, Becca.
I'm also gonna ride the momentum train. My first win of the week goes out to Brady Biella, who picked up his very first win of the season last Friday night at the McLean County Speedway. He picked up the $1,000 paycheck that night. And again, I think that big momentum going into Mod Tour week will be some extra confidence in his pick camps or his camp. So win of the week, my first win of the week goes to Brady Biella. And then my second win of the week, we're gonna stick at the McLean County Speedway. Steve Nordrum in the Western Renegade Wingless Sprint Cars. He picked up his very first win in that series, and obviously of the years for him as well. So big first win for him, especially in that racing series. So congratulations to Steve Nordrum.
Very good. Very good. So I have 3 wins. My first 2 come from the North Dakota Speedway from July 4th, or kind of July 4th. So the first one I will give a win to is Thomas Goldsberry in the 19T, the IMCA hobby stock, that's putting up several good runs lately. He's been running up in the top 4 or 5, like multiple times the last few weeks. Is so close to getting that first feature win. He led several laps on Tuesday on the 4th of July at North Dakota Speedway before getting passed by Caden Ampelt and Kyler Satrin, which it's tough to hold those two off on a regular basis. And so he's knocking on the door of his first feature win. So shout out to Thomas Goldsberry. The other driver from Nodak I want to give a shout out to is Chad Stretch in the 132. So he started in the 7th position on the 4th of July, got called for a caution early, went to the back of the field, 21st, I believe, and drove his way back up to 4th, and even poked his nose out in front for a brief moment on one of the last restarts up in Nodak. And so he did a lot of passing, and they had a lot of cautions, but still going from the front to the back and back to the front, that's pretty dang good. So shout out to Chad Stretchen in the 132. And my third win of the week is also a guy that did a lot of passing this weekend. That's Jeff Nowak, listed from Angelton, Texas. Went on the street stock tour this weekend, Thursday at the Cheyenne Speedway. Started 17th, finished 12th, so class 5. Friday night, I-94 started 20th, finished 5th. And then on Saturday, started 24th and finished 8th. So he did a lot of passing in a very stacked field of cars all 3 nights. And so big shout out to Jeff Nowak for not the best, probably like preliminary race, but come feature time, definitely had the right setup and was able to pass a lot of cars to get towards the front and got the hard charger on Saturday. So those are our wins of the week. And so with that, that'll close it out for episode 19 of season 2. Be sure as always to like, share, comment, subscribe to our various platforms, including Facebook and YouTube. If you're a podcast listener, Spotify, Google, and Apple is where you can find us. We want to thank Tyler Hall from Hitch Harness and Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro for the support of the podcast in 2023. It's a big weekend with Mod Tour coming up, so you'll see a lot of us on tour. If not, we hope to see you out there somewhere this weekend packing the track.